It came to represent a movement. 50 years on, Rita Braver is talking with some of the women behind Ms. Magazine.
What do we want? Equality! When do we want it? Now!
As the women's liberation movement was picking up steam more than half a century ago,
Equal rights! Now!
feminism, the idea of equality for women, was a new and controversial idea. Why do you think that word seemed to threaten people, the word feminism?
Two reasons. One, because they didn't understand it, and two, because they did understand it.
Now 89, Gloria Steinem was a 30-something columnist for New York Magazine when she joined with a group of other journalists to create a new magazine aiming to push feminism into the mainstream. Even the title, Ms., a newly emerging designation for those who didn't want to be bound by Mrs. for a married woman or Miss for a single woman, was an issue. As I understand it, even the New York Times wouldn't call you Ms. Gloria Steinem.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you know that. It was so annoying because for years and years I was Miss Steinem of Ms. Magazine.
Ms. would not offer household hints or fashion tips like traditional women's magazines.
We wanted to be able to write about trying to make an equal marriage or to write about abortion. We didn't want to just focus on women's outsides, but also our insides.
In fact, Steinem says she became an activist as well as a journalist while covering an abortion hearing.
And suddenly I realized, wait a minute, I had an abortion when I was in London, and why has this common experience not been spoken about? So in the very first issue of Ms., we had a massive petition signed by, all kinds of people saying, I have had an abortion.
50 prominent women signed it.
I have had an abortion, and I demand that it become safe and legal. And of course, we're still fighting this battle in some states.
Amid fears about how Ms. would be received, Steinem's boss, legendary New York publisher Clay Felker, volunteered to publish a sample issue within the pages of his magazine. Steinem and the Ms. team hit the publicity circuit.
And when I got to California, somebody called the radio show I was on and said, we can't find it. And I called Clay Felker in a panic, and I said, it didn't get here. And it turned out it had sold out. That was a moment of recognition that, it had an audience.
An audience that's lasted more than 50 years.
This is from the early 70s, spring.
Katherine Spillar, executive editor of Ms., spent 2.5 years compiling an anthology out this coming week. They all want to make you just dive in,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's immodestly subtitled The Pathfinding Magazine That Ignited a Revolution.
It started trends, and it amplified the trends. A lot of articles about men and marriage and relationships and child rearing and politics and violence against women. And you can trace...
That keep coming back.
Keep coming back. And it shows the endurance of this movement, but also the endurance of our opponents.
Published monthly, there were lots of Wonder Woman covers and stories about women's emerging political clout. One of the most popular features has been letters from readers.
Here's a great one. It's very funny. My husband says I used to be a bitch once a month, but since I subscribed to Ms., now I'm a bitch twice a month.
The letters often end with the word click, inspired by one of the earliest articles by Ms. co-founder Jane O'Reilly, describing the moment a woman realizes she's experiencing sexism. It's really become part of the vernacular even today.
It's an automatic connection to other women who are suffering the same injustices.
Long before the Me Too movement, Ms. was writing about sexual harassment on the job.
The editors at the time had to use a doll
because it would have been too outrageous, over
Right.
the top to have a real woman there.
Exactly. And as it was, a lot of newsstands pulled this off, refusing to sell the issue. But it absolutely represented what way too many women in the workplace experienced then and now.
And selling advertising for a women's magazine that covered these issues became a challenge. You describe a lunch with the head of a major cosmetics company in which he told you that women who read Ms. didn't buy blush or makeup.
Right. Took me to lunch to tell me that, yes. Right.
Car manufacturers didn't want to advertise because they didn't think women bought cars.
And that it would devalue a car to see a woman driving it. I mean, they told me that in Detroit. I'm not making it up.
In 2002, Ms. started being published by the nonprofit Feminist Majority Foundation. Today, Ms. is a quarterly and still inspiring young women, according to Ileana McDonald, who works for the foundation. So to the question that some people have, which is, hey, is this 50-plus magazine still relevant? What's your answer?
Absolutely. It's relevant now for the same reason it was relevant back in the 70s, because it's providing a platform. It's encouraging discourse that still needs to be encouraged. It has been 50 years, but we still have a lot of work to do.
All of us must stand up together and say no more.
Ms. co-founder Gloria Steinem couldn't agree more. Are you still optimistic about the push for
Yes.
equality?
Yes, we have to imagine something before it becomes reality. So yes, I am a hopeaholic.